Hey, welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're going to continue on with the 1989 Kawasaki Ninja ZX7 and see how far we can get. There's going to be all kinds of small and weird and wonderful things going on in this video, so stay tuned. I've been very excited, looking forward to putting this on here. Get that bolted in. So I'm in a bit of a predicament here. I've got the frame jacked up with this jack here. My problem is I cannot get that jack to pump up again so I can release it. And I can't just pull the release lever on it and drop it back down because I have no wheels on it and the whole lot will fall over. So I have to get the wheels in before I can release that jack. And yeah, it's a bit of a lift. All right, so I got this jack under the rear wheel. I've got a long punch holding this side of the axle, not the axle, but hold this side of the wheel assembly in place. And temporarily I put this in here, but I still have to get this brake bracket mounted in. All right, super sketchy. Managed to get the back end rejigged here, re-rigged, and I pulled down on the back to basically raise the front up a little bit, because the way it was, I could not get the wheel in underneath the fender, and I wanted to get the front fender in first. So good grief. Just gonna make sure that speedo drive is positioned in the right place. Get my foot underneath this wheel. All right, so the rear caliper has been rebuilt. There's new brake pads in there, all new seals, new dust boots, you name it. I cleaned the pins off because I didn't get new pins with this kit. Just put some copper grease on them, and there's a new O-ring seal between the two halves of the caliper. So new bleed nipples are in here, whatnot, new crush washers. So that's just about ready to go back on the rear of the bike once I clean up these two mounting bolts. All right, new cable needs to go in here for the speedo, so I've got my replacement brand new here. Cleaned up the clocks a little bit, and yeah, we'll get that sorted. All right, so part of the process, of course, as you're putting things back together, is everything's got to get cleaned up before it goes back on. And in this case, this bracket for the tail light will need to be painted. And similarly with the clutch cover, well, it's a slave mount, and also the cover for the primary sprocket. That needs to be cleaned and painted. The airbox needs to be cleaned and polished up. And part of the course, so the taillight mounts to this bracket with two bolts, and let's not be surprised that one of them is snapped off in there and it's wired on. I swear I've worked on a lot of bikes, and never ever have I had so many bolts snapped off, thread stripped. I swear to goodness that whoever owned this bike at some point in time used to go to the gym and then come home and work on the bike, and he didn't own a torque wrench. That's the only thing I can think of to have so many bolts snapped. It's just absolutely incredible, unbelievable. So thankfully, in my box of spare parts, I have a replacement rear light for this. That has both of the studs and the bolts and the nuts and whatnot, versus the one here which has been snapped off. So I am grateful for that. So that can come off, this can get painted, and then this one can go on. So I've been very lucky. I think when I bought that 1990, the gentleman that sold it to me, Rick, sent it along with a box of extra parts. And I've used quite a number of those parts on this restoration. So this tail light was there. There was some bracketry. There was 2 lower fairings which I used on this project. There were 2 side fairings, one of which I used on this project. And so yeah, it's been very helpful to get all kinds of spare parts when I got that 1990 bike. It's saved me quite a bit of money and heartache along the way, so that's good. That's been good news. All right, so there's the sprocket cover, repainted and just cleaned out the inside, so that's ready to go back on. And the replacement tail light is in the freshly painted bracket. Gauge cluster is all cleaned up, ready to go back in as well. All right, so these are the brackets for the infill panels that kind of fit inside the upper fairing, so they support these guys. And so these are the 2 that came on the bike. So this one, it wasn't too bad. Not great, but not too bad. Bit of a, well, what would I say? Yeah, not so bad. It would have been fine. This one had been cut down and was bent, so the whole back section of that was missing. This one I had as a spare, and it was in better shape. This one was a little bit bent, I think. So anyway, I cleaned this one up, sandblasted it, and painted it. And then this one, I found brand new OEM, NOS, whatever you want to call it, in the Kawasaki bag on eBay. So I bought that, good price on it. And I think this one I got from a seller as well on eBay. So those ones are going on the bike. This one is not, but I am going to swap over any and all of the grommets. There's 3 of them in here, 2 of them in there, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll have to find another grommet for this one. Right, so the Airbox has a bit of an issue. It doesn't fit very well on the carbs, and you can see the state of these rubber boots here. So this has obviously been bolted back onto the carbs in a way that has crushed these boots. I think the only way to get these out is to warm up this rubber to the point where it becomes a little bit more flexible. It's like rock right now, but I don't want to heat it up to the point where I damage the Airbox, so I have to be careful. All right, I'm just going to pull one of these things back out of here so you can see that what I'm dropping in here, if I can grab it with my pliers, which, there we go. So you see them in there. I just took 2 of the boots, and this is a solution of wintergreen oil, or oil of wintergreen, whatever you prefer, and alcohol. So 1 part oil of wintergreen, 3 parts isopropyl alcohol. And I'm going to leave those in there for at least 4 to 6 hours to begin with, and judging by how hard they were, I'm probably going to end up leaving them in for a day, but I'll check them ever so often. And yeah, they'll soften right up, kind of go back to almost like new, And the good thing about using this kind of a process is they will not harden up again when they dry out. They'll still stay supple. So I can only put 2 at a time in. So these 2 have been removed. They're in the jar, and I'll clean this half of the box and put those back in there when they've been softened up, and then I can come back to this one later. I mean, these ones are also buggered up. Like, it's just carelessness, right? Somebody didn't take the time to get them to seat properly, and they're all kind of pinched and folded. We'll see how they come out, but I don't suspect that these are, you know, there's replacements out there for these things. This one got so mangled. I mean, just look at how this was. Look at the plastic. Unbelievable. So yeah, we'll have to try that. I might have to trim that, to be honest, because that's not going to sit. I'll heat that up, see if I can straighten that out a little bit, trim the excess off the edge there, because that's not gonna fit on the car properly either. Okay, so these airbox openings were also buggered up pretty badly. So I've taken a razor blade and a straight edge, and I basically shaved. This plastic was raised, you know, a good 1/8 of an inch minimum. So now I've kind of shaved it all back, so at least it's flush. So that should allow it to mount a lot easier. Now I'm just going to see if I can heat this up a little bit and straighten it a very, very small amount. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, that's going to fit a lot better when those boots soften up. And you know, we'll do the same thing with these. You can see how raised they are just because they've been crunched down in the wrong place. This one's not too bad. This one's okay. But this one is really bad, just like the other 2 were. All right, so at the end of the last painting video, I just wrapped up at the paint booth putting another coat of clear on the side panels after putting the decals on. I'd corrected my paint line on this tail section. That got more clear coat on it because I ended up sanding the whole thing back. So all of that stuff is kind of looking good. There is a couple of specks of dirt or dust or something, or lint or whatever. I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's because generally you get a lot of static in the paint booth on the plastic parts. It just tends to attract that stuff even after you've tacked it off. So some of that stuff's going to get a light sand with 3000 and a bit of a buff before it goes on the bike, so that's not a big deal. And the tank looks really good, except for a couple of runs that were down on the bottom there. I don't know if you can see them here or not, but there's a couple of runs there, one there, and then down here. So I've got this thing set up in front of my heater in the garage, and right now it's only been a day since I painted this stuff, so can't really touch that for a while. I'm gonna wait at least a week before I start to address those paint runs. And the reason for that is if you go at that stuff too soon, even though this kind of feels dry to the touch, when you got a paint run inside that drip, it tends to stay quite tacky. And if you address it too soon, you end up with a huge mess on your hands. So I want the actual run itself to dry nice and hard. And then what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you me trying to attempt to deal with that run without re-clear coating it. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to file down the run, and I'm going to wet sand it with probably 800 and 1000 and 1200 all the way up to 3000 grit, and then polish it up. I've done it before, you may have seen it in a couple of my videos, but when I say I'm going to file the run down, these are what I'm going to use. My buddy lent me these. These are for filing runs at a clear coat, basically. And you just you don't push on them, you just gently lay them on the surface and drag them. And it's the same idea, I guess, as I've seen people kind of use a razor blade before to scratch the bulk of the run out. So that's what I'm going to try, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, the worst case scenario is you make a complete muck of it and you've got to go back and throw more clear coat on it or paint or something like that. But hopefully, say I've done it before, I've dealt with runs, sand them out, progressively finer, doing it wet and then hitting it with the polish, and it should be just fine. But the key is have patience. Don't touch it until it is absolutely dry. Just let it sit there for a week. There's no rush. There's lots of other things to be getting on with, but it's kind of a good time to stand back and enjoy the colors and the shine, and because that just looks so good. It just looks so good. You got to enjoy these moments, right? When coming out of the paint booth with all the shiny stuff, there's nothing like it. That's my favorite part of the whole process. Painting and decals. If I could do nothing else but paint and decals, that'd be great. But I enjoy the whole process coming together, but as you know, there's things that you like to do and things that you could do without. Electrical stuff, even when it's parts of it that it's not difficult to do, like, connecting stuff up. I just don't like it. It's just a pain. I just don't enjoy that particular part of the process. But anyway, it's, you do that because you enjoy the entire thing, right? You have to deal with the things you hate with as much vigor and energy and enthusiasm as the stuff that you don't. So that's the way it works. That's the secret to success right there. Attack the things you don't like with as much passion and enthusiasm as the things that you do. So yeah, what else have I done? Drive sprocket's back on, the nut's on, but it hasn't been torqued yet because I got to put the chain on, which is sitting right there. And all this stuff is just about ready to go back on. That's been painted, so that's almost ready to go. And gauges, tail light. Yeah, just basically I'm just working my way through all the bits of stuff that are covered in junk and dirt and crap. I need to be cleaned, and that's kind of the, that way it just makes the whole assembly process go a little bit quicker once I start really getting to it. So this I don't need because that's just a spare part there for reference, because I have the tray down there and the brackets are elsewhere. But all this stuff needs to get cleaned up. All these hoses, the headlights, headlight bucket, the radiator is a mess. I think you showed in one of the earlier videos that's all been crunched right there. That needs to be straightened out, and the whole thing needs to be repainted. So there's just cleaning, painting. I kind of enjoy that part of the process. It's kind of very gratifying. I did rebuild this switchgear. Now I bought 2 new switchgear out of Germany, but I was not paying sufficient attention when I bought them on eBay. And the wiring is quite different because on the European switchgear, there's actually a light switch on and off here. And I thought maybe it was just one extra set of plugs on the end, although it does have that, but this is all, they also are pinned completely differently. And I don't need that switch there, so that's not, just wouldn't look right. I'm not thrilled about that because I really wanted the kind of the nice printed, on, off, etc. start to be, because right now it's all really faded, you can see that. But what I did do is this starter switch was completely screwed up originally. So I took the switch out of the good switch gear, cleaned all the contacts, and put all that back together, tested that works. And then this also got cleaned up. I was hoping to use the other one that I got, but again, completely different. There's a flash to pass button on the European ones, and there's extra plugs that I don't fit the wiring harness, and these the wires are also pinned differently. I could take the time, I guess, to repin it, but at the end of the day, it's fine. It didn't come with. I could switch the choke assembly out of here too. All right, so the saga continues with Arnold Schwarzenegger's motorcycle. Obviously, when he went to the gym one time, he came back and worked on the carburetors because, as with every other freaking fastener on this bike, there's a snapped off bolt in there. And I wish I think I did notice this actually when I first pulled them off the bike, and then I completely forgot about it when I rebuilt the carbs. So what I have to do now is see if I can get that out of here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off all of these carbs. I'll clean them with some brake cleaner, tape off the openings so no shavings can get in here anywhere, and then I'm going to center punch that, and then I'm going to start off with a reverse left-hand drill bit, and then we'll see how that works, and then use an extractor on it. But it's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable how many fasteners are snapped or stripped or whatever. I mean, I've said it before. It seems like I say it in every episode on this bike, but good Lord. I mean, if you're gonna do this stuff, like, get a torque wrench. Like, it's not, you know, crank it down until it, until it strips, and then, you know, back it off a quarter turn. That's not how you tighten bolts. Or, you know, crank it till it snaps. Crazy, crazy stuff. Okay, so there we go. Everything's taped off. Just got the little hole showing there where I'm going to do my my drilling. All right, so the other thing I'm going to have to do fairly soon is deal with the exhaust system on this bike, and I really haven't done that yet because you may recall from an earlier video, I noticed that I couldn't get the oil drain plug out of this 89 while the exhaust was on, and you know, if the headers are on, you can't get that out. And the reason for that is it had the wrong exhaust system on it. It had the exhaust system on it from a 1990 ZX7. And one of the differences between the two bikes is the drain plug on the 89 is dead center. The drain plug on the 90 is kind of slightly offset. So the way the exhaust system is supposed to work on the 89 is it's a 4 into 2 into 1. And so where the two kind of split and they go on each side of this drain plug is the way that it's supposed to be. And by sheer coincidence, the 1990 that I have here has an 89 exhaust system on it, and you can't get to the drain plug on that either because you know, it just routes the wrong way. It's got the part that splits into two, and one of them is over top of the drain plug on that. So I'm gonna have to pull this one out and start stripping it down in order to get that exhaust system off to get cleaned up to go on this bike. So normally I don't like touching any bikes. I don't like starting to strip stuff until you know, I've got one done, but in this particular case, I really don't have a choice. This petcock fuel valve, whatever you want to call it, also needs to be looked at. Initially I couldn't get it to move at all. I put some PB Blaster in there, and now it does move. I'm gonna have to buy some new fuel line for it because these ones are old and rotted and hard and whatnot. But I've got it soaking in some Blaster at the moment because I'm hoping to basically disassemble this and just check out all of the O-rings and the seals in there. I'm not sure what sort of crap has built up in there over the time, but if the contents of the gas tank were anything to go by, this thing is going to have to come apart. It looks like we do have a bunch of debris in here. Hard to know if that's rust or just some rubber that might have deteriorated off the seal in there. This doesn't look to be in very good shape right here. Yeah, the inlet hole here is quite clogged up. I couldn't even blow through the hose, so I think we'll have to see if I can get a new seal kit for this and throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and give it a good cleaning. So I got my chain on here, and basically I'm just using this this chain breaker kit. It's a chain breaker, but it also has these little anvils for pinching the links together before I put the clip on. There's the kind of the rear end all sorted out. Put the chain guards on there. Both of these were missing when I got the bike, and those things are hard to find. There seems to be a lot of stuff on the back end of this bike that's quite unique. It's 89, the swing arm, the hugger, the chain guards and whatnot. I bet just in this area here, there's at least $1,000 of new stuff that I had to buy. Chain guards, hugger, chain, repairing the swing arm. Those brackets were all buggered up and whatnot. Yeah, it's not cheap, but it does look good. So the oil cooler is a bit of a mess from the perspective of being really dirty. And the biggest concern is kind of right where the right where the front wheel would kick up all the dirt and the grime and the crap, because this kind of sits really low. That's really plugged up. This whole area right here is plugged, so you can't see through the cooling fins. So some of those spots you can see through, but as soon as you get to the center there, right here, you see nothing. Then you go over here and you can see through them again. So normally, this is in the spring or the summer or the fall, I would take this outside and use a hose on it. Don't like using a pressure washer on radiators, because the pressure of the water can bend and mangle all the fins. But normally, if you, like what I've used on here is so far I've just sprayed some penetrating degreaser and cleaner on there. And then a lot of times if you start running a hose from the back side, the water through this way, it'll dislodge a lot of that crap that's in there. But I can't use a hose at this time of year. We're, you know, -10, -20, whatever it is out there. There's just no way to use a hose. So I might have to sneak this in the house into the laundry room when my wife is not home. I'm just using the end of this wrench to start to remove the flat spot here. I'm heating everything up with this butane torch, so in hopes that I don't crack anything. Putting a lot of heat to it, and then slowly but surely I'm moving. I've got a screwdriver. Basically what I'm doing is I'm turning the wrench gradually to round out the flat spot on this side. Yeah, it's almost round again. So here's the other one. This is the bottom. I think. Yeah, I think this is the bottom. Yeah, it is. And this, yeah, this one's kind of not quite as squashed as the other one, but that's certainly far from round, that's for sure. So again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat this up, and then we'll do a bit of tapping and just do it slowly, a little bit at a time. We don't want to break anything or crack anything. So I've got it pretty round, but the other thing that's going on with this is I think it's a little bit of corrosion along the way over the years. It's got this really rough. Plus, I think somebody at some point has pried off the hoses with a screwdriver, and then this is all very rough. So I'm just gonna quickly and very lightly dress the edge of this up so I don't have any sharp edges. So here's a handy dandy little tool for getting in here and straightening these things out. You can kind of pound it in once you've heated this up, and then you can use it as a buck, and then kind of tap around the outside here to form it against this thing. So yeah, it works pretty well. And where did I get it? I stole it from the kitchen. This is what we use to wash our dishes, or well, we used to use it to wash our dishes. Okay, the other thing I will show you here on the main radiator, I don't know if you can see, almost every fin is bent over. And that's behind the mesh guard as well. There's a little section up here that isn't too bad. That looks pretty good over here, but pretty much everything else. So looking back at it, okay, this section here in the middle on the upper section is fine. Everything else is pretty much flattened. So anyway, this is gonna have to come off, and before I wash it, I'm gonna have to straighten every single one of those fins, which is gonna be a long and laborious process. So in order to straighten out the fins in this radiator, the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to picking them and straightening them from the front where they're all folded over is going to be exceptionally difficult, and it's really not going to work that well, and it would take too long. Like one of the ways I've done it in the past when there's only a few is you take a little tiny screwdriver like this, and you can very, very gently move the move the fins a little bit at a time, like, something like this. But that takes, to do that with this radiator would take forever and a day. And so what I've done is, this is a really, really old set of feeler gauges. These are my dad's from many years ago. None of them are broken. And so what I did was I took one that I thought was thin enough, but still strong enough to push from one side to the other. And then I took a pair of metal shears and I cut it down. So instead of being kind of this wide, I've cut it down so it'll go all the way through the radiator. And the other thing I've done is where I cut it, I filed it smooth so there was no kind of serrated edge on here, because I didn't want to risk accidentally cutting into the coolant flow pipes in here in any way, shape, or form. So basically what I will do is, this is the front side. I'm going to flip this over to the back side, which is for the most part pretty good, with the exception of this spot over here, which I'll have to address. And I'm just going to start at one side and just work my way across each row, feeding this thing through and straightening every single one of these fins, which I'll be here for a while, but it's got to be done. All right, I'll just kind of show you here what I got going on. It's I will call this being marginally successful, because getting it through is one thing, getting the fins straight is completely different. Gently kind of work it through where these are flattened. I will say that up in these areas here, getting the feeler gauge through seems to be much more of a difficult task. The worse they're bent over, it increases your chances of actually pushing the aluminum fin completely out of the radiator, which you don't want to do. Just gonna test the fan here, make sure it works. All good. Okay, the rad's as good as it can be. To be honest, I think I started out with kind of 30% of the radiator clear and 70% blocked, and I think I've gotten to the point where I'm kind of like 70 or 80% clear, and there's still probably, maybe 25% that's kind of not quite as good as I would like it to be, specifically right here, right in that area there. Maybe it's not 25, less, maybe 20%. It's just not as I can't get the fins straightened out. They're so flattened. Can't push them from the back, otherwise it wants to push the actual aluminum of the fin completely out. So onto the oil cooler. It occurs to me that taking this into the laundry room and running water through it's not going to do anything at all. There's as many bent fins on the front of this as there is dirt packed into it. So quite honestly, the only way to free this up is running this feeler gauge through each of the slots. I managed to remove this screw. This one is completely seized in, so I've got it soaking. We'll just kind of pick away at this. The rear fender's on, the tail light is on, and the hugger and the rear fender look like a strange combination on this bike. I got to be honest, but that's the way they were. It looks very busy back here until you get the side panels on. It looks kind of bulky, but it's got to be OEM. Got to be original. The one thing that I haven't yet done, as you can see here, these are the signal wires that have been cut, and so this is for one signal here, this is for the other, and so they're going to have to be extended to some degree, but exactly how long I'm not going to know until I get the actual signal wires hooked up and then the wiring pulled through, so I know how much wire I need to add on here. But just more of the chopping that had been done on the back of this bike when when people put those crappy aftermarket signals on. I can't stand that stuff, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Put the battery back in. Just been going around connecting up wires. Fuel pump is back in. The switch gear is on. Clutch is on. I haven't wired up. I haven't attached the clutch slave yet. Rear sets and CDI box, fuse box, all that kind of jazz is reconnected. So little by little, we're getting there. Everything's, well, not everything, most things are hooked up in here. The horn is not. The right switchgear connectors are not attached yet. Coils are in. So yeah, it's coming together slowly but surely, a little bit at a time. Still a few things that I'm waiting for that haven't arrived yet, so I might end up being slightly delayed, although by the time you see this video it'll be hopefully pretty seamless, because I think I'm about 3 weeks ahead of where the YouTube videos are at right now. But yeah, I'm just kind of moving back and forth depending on what I'm still waiting to arrive, and trying to make sure that I don't kind of leave myself in a position where I have to undo things. So yeah, we're getting there. It's starting to look like a complete bike again. Though the coolant bottle is on, this is not actually being routed to the correct place at the moment. This is kind of all hard. I need to take it off, and it should actually route back through here up into this. So that's kind of a to be done. I'll cut that hose off there and put a new one on, but I haven't done that yet. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. I think we're getting awfully close to finishing this thing up. I hope, fingers crossed. It's taken quite a while. But we'll see how everything comes along, see if all the parts that I'm waiting for decide to arrive, and we're going to try to wrap this up in the next couple of videos, I think, and we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching.